Hi guys, my name is Christine and I'm a dating, relationship and personal development coach. And today I'm talking about she'll think of you non-stop if you do this. So if you want a woman to think about you, and let's say it's a woman that you've perhaps dated and she's lost a bit of interest in you, or it's a woman who you've only just started dating, here are some things that can help with that. So if this is a woman that you've only just started dating, then the best thing that you can do is to go slower than what she wants, okay? So this means responding to messages from her when it's convenient for you. Don't just drop everything you're doing to message her, okay? You want to go slower than she wants to go. So this also relates to when you ask a woman out, right? So if you've already been on a date, then leave it a few days before you ask her out again on another date. The way that I did it with my wife when I met my wife was I waited 5 days because I really wanted to kind of drag it out, right? Because I followed these rules, I followed the rule of making, because I'm someone who falls in love really fast, right? So therefore I need to go at, I knew I needed to go at my wife's pace, right? Obviously she wasn't my wife at the time. She was a girl that I was dating, but you get my point, right? I wanted to go at her pace. So I dragged things out. That's why I waited 5 days without saying anything to her before I asked her out for another date for that following weekend. You see, I made it go nice and slow. Okay. So I asked her out. The first time I asked her out, I waited. The date was set up about 5 days in advance. So I think I asked her out on the Monday and then we went out on a date on a Saturday. Now, after we went out on our first date on Saturday, I waited 5 days to ask her out, not for that weekend, but for the following weekend, right? So there was like a weekend where we didn't see each other, okay? So I dragged it out, basically, right? And I continued to do that for, I think that was it. I think after those first 2 dates, she started to message me more and she started to initiate the conversations more. And then when she initiates the conversation, I asked her out again. And then we started to meet up more frequently. So we would be then spending the weekend together. And then eventually it got to a point where we would even see each other during the week as well. So we would spend the whole weekend together and then a day during the week. Okay. So I dragged out the process. Because my wife was quite shy, quite introverted. And typically when you are dating a woman that's shy, what you need to do is you need to give that woman more time to warm up to you so they feel more comfortable to be themselves. That's essentially why because shy people tend to be a little bit insecure, a little bit unsure of themselves, a little bit worried of saying the wrong thing, not quite sure what to say because they don't quite feel comfortable in the presence of that person they're shy with, right? And when they start to feel more comfortable and they feel like they can be more themselves, then they start to be more receptive. That's when they start to, open up and they start to be more themselves and they relax and they let their guard down. Okay, that's how you deal with a shy woman, right? Or a shy guy. And one of the best ways that you can do that is just by being yourself. Because if you're awkward too and you kind of don't know what to do too, then it's just going to make it even more awkward and both of you are going to be, it's just going to be a mess basically, right? So what I did in those first couple of dates with my wife was I was just my goofy self, right? I was just being who I am and, not taking myself too seriously, not taking her too seriously, just having a laugh and having a good time, cracking jokes whenever I could, making her smile, making her laugh, because laughter is one of the best ways you can let someone's guard down, especially if they're shy, okay? So if you're more yourself and you're relaxed and you're happy and you're cracking jokes, it's more likely that the woman that you're on a date with will follow you, will follow your mood. Because if you are someone who's more masculine, so like a man, and you're dealing with a woman who's very feminine, she's looking to you for leadership, right? And you, because you're the leader, you are the one that's setting the tone. And it was the same dynamic with when I met my wife. I set the tone. I said, well, I'm not going to have an awkward situation. I'm just going to be myself and I'm going to have fun. I'm going to crack jokes. I'm just going to be me. And by doing that, that allowed her to be herself too, and for her to crack jokes and for her to be jokey and stuff, right? And for her to be herself, right? So that's how you deal with that kind of situation. But when you're dating a woman, especially a woman who perhaps is shy or isn't sure about you yet, who's uncomfortable around you, whatever it may be, it hasn't quite warmed up to you yet, or perhaps it's one of these women that you sometimes meet that are kind of a little bit into you, but not 100% yet. They may find you attractive, but they're kind of unsure. Because you do most of the time when you date a woman, that's probably where they'll be. They'll probably be at that level where they're a bit unsure on what, You go slow. You don't try to rush things. You don't try to rush them into the bedroom. You don't try to rush them into a relationship. You don't, obsessively speak to them every single day. You just stretch things out. Okay? Now, with a woman that's more extroverted and a woman that's really into you, really, really into you, aggressively into you, and she's extroverted and she's not shy, it's more likely that this process will be a lot quicker, right? So a woman that's extroverted and really, really into you, it probably doesn't matter how long you stretch out the time to ask her out and things like that, right? It probably doesn't matter so much about that because she will probably be messaging you a lot as well. And it's like what Corey Wayne says. If you need to check out his book 3% Man, it's in one of my recommended books in the description of this video. He says that when a woman reaches out to you, assume that she wants to see you, and that's the reason why she's messaged you. Even if she hasn't flat out said to you, oh, I want to meet up with you. If she's saying, hey, how are you? What have you been up to? Assume that what that means is, what that translates to is, I miss you, I want to see you. And then what you do is you say, hey, yeah, I'm really good. I've been doing really well. I'm doing great. I'm just been at work. I can't wait to see you again. When are you free? And then you set up that date, right? So that really helps, okay? So when a woman starts initiating conversations with you, that's what you want to say. That's what you want to go with, because then you can start seeing each other more frequently. And the more frequently you see each other, it then gets to a point where you're in a relationship. But unfortunately, what the problem is that some people go too fast too soon. They want that straight away, and they start talking to a woman, and they already cannot live without her, and they keep on sending her messages, and they're not giving her time to think about what's been happening. They're not leaving enough time in between dates, and they're not dragging things out to heighten her in anticipation and interest, and to allow her feelings to develop, because that's what the point is of that time and trying to stretch things out. Because if you are dealing with a woman that you really like, but you're a bit unsure if she likes you too, it's best to set up a date, like a few days in advance. Try to keep contact to a minimum, try not to speak to them at all before that date. And then after that date, you wait a good few days to ask her out again, like what I did with my wife. I waited another 5 days before I asked her out for a second date. Yeah? So you drag it out. You give her time to think about you. You're not rushing things. And if she feels like you're not rushing, then she's going to be the one that starts pursuing you more, because she's like, well, I want things to move along faster. So it seems like I'm just going to have to, initiate with him more or with her more. Right? So you see how that works. You're dragging things out. You're making the dates you're giving there a good amount of time in between dates, and you're keeping contact to a minimum. And if they do contact you, try to cut the conversation short. You don't have to do it in a rude or cold way. Just if they reach out to you and they say, hey, how are you? You'll be like, yeah, it's great to hear from you. I'm doing really well, thank you. I can't wait to see you on Saturday when you've set up that date. And they'll probably be like, oh yeah, I can't wait too, and be like, great, well, I've got to go. I've got to go to bed early because I've got a really early start tomorrow. I'll see you on Saturday. Just cut it off like that. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be cold. Okay, always be happy to hear from a woman that you're interested in and they like you and you like them. Right? Always be interested in that. Always show enthusiasm and happiness when they reach out to you, saying, it's great to hear from you. I'm so happy you messaged. Things like that. So you want to use messaging and phone calls as a tool to set up a date. You don't want to use it as a way to get to know each other, right? And the reason you don't use the phone, like messaging and phone calls, as a way to get to know one another is because by doing that, if you are someone who likes to get to know someone over Messenger or over the phone, what's essentially happening, or what essentially could happen, is there could be a lot of miscommunication, because the best way to get to know someone is in person, right? If you think about it, as human beings, we've been on this planet for hundreds of thousands of years, perhaps even more, right? We've been here a long time. It's only been in the last few decades, where we've been using Messenger, to get to know people, right? And we are better off as human beings, and we're designed to read off of each other's body language, to see, to look into people's eyes. That's what we're more used to as human beings. That's what our bodies are designed to do when it comes to communication. So that's why it's difficult to get to know someone over Messenger, over online, because first of all, there's that barrier. You don't actually know what it's like to be in their presence, especially if you haven't actually met up with them yet and you don't know them in an outside environment. But also, a lot of miscommunication can happen with those things. Things can get misconstrued, and you don't want that, right? So it's best to leave Messenger and phone calls and just use them as tools to arrange meetups. I even use the phone and messaging as tools to meet up with people and tools to hang out with people. I don't usually use it for chit-chatting unless I have a friend that I've known for a long time that is going through a big issue, right? If I can't physically see them, right? That's the only way I use that, right? Is if I know one of my best friends who I've known for a long time is going through some struggles and I can't physically be with them. But other times, when it comes to family members, when it comes to my wife, or whatever it is that we're having to do with our family members and stuff, I use it as a tool to meet up. I don't try and get to know people over Messenger and over phone calls. I use it as a tool to hang out with them, to talk about the next time we're meeting up, to arrange the next time we meet up, things like that. Okay, so another thing that can really help with this, to help this woman think about you a lot, is to be a positive person, right? Because the negativity repels, right? If you're always negative when you're on a date with a woman that you want to think that you want to think positively about you, and you're always negative and you're always complaining about your problems, they're eventually, even if they're attracted to you, they eventually will start losing interest because you are repelling them by your negative energy. Right? If you've always got something negative to say, if you're always being a negative Nelly, complaining about your life to them, there's only going to be so much that they're going to take until they get bored or they feel like that you're draining their energy. Because sometimes, I don't know if you've ever had this kind of experience, I know how I have, but you're in a good mood and then you just come across someone, like you have to spend some time with someone who's just in an absolute miserable mood. And then after that experience, after that exchange, you just feel really drained and you just feel awful about yourself because they've just sat there and complained about their lives. And obviously, a lot of people have issues. But what I'm saying is that if they do have issues, if you do have issues that you would like to talk to someone about, leave it for a counsellor, leave it for a professional, leave it for your best friend. But you shouldn't be doing that with a woman who you're still trying to get to know, still trying to figure out if there's someone that you want to be with. You shouldn't be doing it with someone who you're not in a committed relationship with. So sometimes you can be upset with, let's say, your girlfriend or your wife, and because you may have things going on that they know about. You've got a few tragedies going on, perhaps you've got some financial issues, perhaps someone's died. Obviously then it's okay to have the time to be upset and be, and complain about it, essentially, right? And to be a negative Nelly. But you can't let it be all the time. You can't let it be all the time because negativity repels. And if they feel like they're being drained by having experiences with you, they're going to want to avoid you, right? And if you want someone to like you, you want them to be drawn to you. So avoid being negative. If you are going through a struggle, put a positive twist on it. So so if it comes up and let's say you've got some money struggles, you can say, yeah, I'm struggling a little bit financially these days, but you know what? I'm learning a lot more about money, a lot more about saving, and I think I'm definitely going to become better off because of this experience. It's teaching me a lot about money. So, you can put a positive twist on a negative circumstance, okay? You don't have to just avoid the topic, especially if the topic comes up. Something else that can help is if you wait for her to say things like, I love you, or what are we? Wait for her to do that sort of thing. Now, this is something that I had to really rein in, basically, because I'm someone who, if I'm really enamored by a woman, then I want to tell her how much I like her. I want to tell her how much I want to tell her everything. I want to tell her all my feelings, right? But if you're someone who falls in love really fast like myself, you have to learn to rein it in and to be patient and to wait for the other person to tell you that first, right? Because if you're saying I love you too soon, or I really, really like you too soon, and, acting like you can't live without her too soon and that she's your world too soon, right? And she's not at that place yet, and you don't know if she's at that place yet, then you have to wait. You have to rein it in and wait. So the best thing to do is to wait for her to bring up those things. Wait for her to say, I love you first. Wait for her to say, what are we? Are we in a relationship? You know, wait for her to bring up those things. Okay, especially if you are worried of, forcing things, or that you go way too quick too soon and you scare women off by the fact that you go too quick too soon. So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with me personally and you'd like coaching with me, then please go to www.christineloveridge.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.